Welcome to Building Business with Soul with Coach Arliss. Today, we are going to be talking about how to dive in to soulful approaches to business, get nerdy with some brain science, and learn the nuts and bolts of how business owners build success through their passion. Let's take a moment and get focused and centered with one round of box breathing, where we will breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and then breathe out for a count of 4. Let's begin. Breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantastic job getting focused and centered today. Today, we are going to be focusing on releasing burnout. So, have you ever experienced burnout? And what did it feel like to you? I know that for me, when I've experienced it in my past, I feel like I want to run away and like I can't do anything or don't want to do anything. And it's a very hopeless and helpless place. And I know that the experience of burnout looks a little bit differently for each one of us. Burnout is pretty prevalent. There was a recent Gallup research study that showed that 2.7 million workers in Germany report feelings of burnout. And in a 2013 survey of human resource directors in the United Kingdom, they found that 30% reported that burnout was widely spread within their organization. And we know that this number has increased over the last few years, especially with COVID. So what is burnout? Burnout is a form of exhaustion caused by constantly feeling swamped. It's a result of excessive and prolonged emotional, physical, or mental stress. And in many cases, burnout is associated with one's business or one's work. Burnout happens when people get overwhelmed and they end up feeling emotionally drained, and they find that it's hard to keep up with all of the things going on in their life or business. The condition is not medically diagnosed, but it does affect both physical and mental health, and it can affect our immune system. Burnout keeps us from feeling and being productive, and it can create a feeling of being in reduced energy and being more cynical or having more of a negative outlook on life. So take a moment and think about what leads you to feel burned out. And let's dive into a little bit more detail to see if we can gain some clarity for you on what causes you to feel burned out. So, what typically causes burnout? One is unmanageable workloads. And if you are an entrepreneur, then guess what? You are your own boss and you get to manage your workload. And it could be that you're putting too much on your plate. Maybe you're not asking for or getting enough help in some area, or maybe you're trying to go too fast, which is putting more on your plate than you can get done in a normal amount of time. You also may be experiencing unfair treatment at work. Again, if you're an entrepreneur, this unfair treatment may be coming from you. We've all had that boss that is amazingly supportive and positive and celebrates us. And we know how incredible it is to work with that person and feel motivated to do work with that person. Are you being that person to you? Are you celebrating yourself and recognizing yourself and supporting yourself along the way? Or are you treating yourself unfairly and showing yourself negative aspects and maybe shaming and blaming yourself when you don't meet that deadline? Take notice of how you're treating yourself in the work environment that you're creating. Also, Confusion can happen, which can also cause burnout. When we are confused about what we're supposed to do next or how we're supposed to be working in our business, there can be that feeling of hopelessness or helplessness. So get really clear on what you want to be doing in your business and how you want to be doing that and how it will positively impact your long-term goals. And make sure that you're not putting yourself under immense deadline pressure. When we have immense deadline pressure, this can also lead to burnout. It's also important to know the difference between stress and burnout. In our lives and businesses, there are positive stressors that happen, such as the launch of a new product or service, or things such as moving into a new living space, or having some kind of positive transition in life. Positive stress can actually motivate us a little bit, whereas burnout doesn't motivate us at all. So what is in alignment with feeling positive stress? Sometimes we're a little bit more emotional. We might be overengaged. We might feel a sense of urgency, have increased energy, and feel hyperactivity. When the stress gets a little bit deeper into the more negative side, we might feel a sense of anxiety. And if that stress goes far into the negative side, it might start to take a physical toll on us. When we are experiencing burnout, we feel distant from our emotions. We might feel disengaged from our business or from our life. We may feel low motivation or feel helpless or hopeless. We may experience diminished energy, depression, and burnout really takes a mental toll on us. So what happens when we go into a place of burnout? Well, this can cause us to have an impact, a negative impact on our sleep, where we end up feeling sleep deprived. It can have a negative impact on how we are fueling our body, and those can lead to negative eating habits. It can also cause us to have an impact on our immune system, which may increase us getting things like colds and flus. Also, when we're in a place of burnout, we might have a hard time concentrating. We also might have a hard time paying attention or even retaining the information and having it be able to come up for us from our memory. We also may feel as though our performance is not as we have seen in our past when we've been our most productive, and we may feel an avoidance to taking on new responsibilities and a lack of joy in our lives. All of these things are really important to know, because when we are feeling them, we can use them as flags to let us know, hey, we're experiencing burnout and it's time to choose something different. So what are some other signposts along the way that we can have in our mind to indicate that we might be experiencing burnout? I also like to call these the red flags or the turnoff signs that show, hey, it's time to make a different choice. Well, other signs of burnout include feeling tired, feeling uncomfortable or not good in one's physical body, feeling a sense of self-doubt, or having decreased emotion. There also may be the sign of having an increased negative outlook or a decreased sense of satisfaction. When we are experiencing burnout, we may isolate ourselves more or procrastinate more, or we may have feelings of anger or frustration that come to the surface more easily. So now that you have identified those road signs of, hey, burnout is happening, let's make a different choice. Let's talk about how we can prevent burnout and move away from burnout. The first step that I want you to consider is practicing mindfulness. Now, when we started today's show, we practiced mindful breathing by breathing into a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, and breathing out for a count of 4. If you're looking for other ways to practice mindfulness, please check out my previous shows. There are a number of different shows that talk about the different practices of mindfulness. And mindfulness really allows us to be in the present moment with awareness and non-judgment. And this allows us to really feel into what's happening for us so that we can identify if we're heading down the path of burnout and take a different route instead. In fact, mindfulness itself could be taking that different route, because when we practice mindfulness, we do things like meditation, mindful walking. We also might do visioning or journaling, and all of those things support us in being in a more positive state in all three, actually, body, mind, and soul. So we've talked about some of the early indications and signs of burnout, and realize that when these early indications happen, as entrepreneurs, we might have the first inclination to deny them. Oh, that's not what's happening right now. Yeah, I might feel a little tired all the time, but I'm not headed to burnout. Oh, I see that I might be getting frustrated or angry a little bit more often and more easily, but I'm not headed to burnout. And just know that that is our first inclination, because in our society, we want to be the most productive, able-bodied, images of perfection out there that we can be, because otherwise we get judged. And so know that this self-denial comes from this fear of getting judged, and self-denial doesn't actually help us stop going down the route of burnout. It actually more ensures that we're going to continue down that path. So if you're getting signs that you're going into burnout and you hear that voice in your head saying, oh, that's probably not what's going on, have a flag on that too, because that's an indication that you may be denying what's really happening for you. And it might be a time to check in a deeper way and see if burnout might be occurring. So how do we cultivate the ability to be self-reflective and recognize burnout? Well, the first thing is to try to attend to your own needs. Figure out what your baseline is. How many hours of sleep a night really support you to get up and feel refreshed in the morning and be in your business in a positive way? How can you nourish and fuel your body in a way that really supports you in feeling like you have enough energy and you are good to go throughout the day, whether that's with food or water or other things that you put into your body to feel good and healthy and centered? How are you moving your body so that you can feel healthy? And what are the other things that you need as kind of like the baseline to feel really good? I personally need to be meditating every single day for about 10 minutes or more to be in a place where I feel really happy and joyous and connected in my life. I know when I am not doing that, I feel less connected and I feel a higher level of stress, which can lead to burnout. We also want to make sure that whatever our goals and expectations are on ourselves are realistic. And I have a whole show on how to do really amazing goal setting. And the biggest thing is to make sure that it's realistic, that it's achievable, that the time frame that's set is able to be met, and that you recognize and reward yourself all along the way. One of the things that I think is really great to do is to check in with yourself on a weekly basis. How are you feeling about where you are as far as your health and wellness in your life and in your business? And then also check in on a weekly basis on your goals. How are you making progress towards those goals? I also want you to check in to see if what you're doing with your business also aligns with your passion. because that might shift a little bit as you go along in your business, and you may want to shift your business as your passion changes. Finally, I want you to look at how are you taking breaks, or like I like to say, going on recess during your business time so that you can have those times to restore your physical comfort and also have a time to kind of let your brain re-energize and recuperate before you go on to the next thing. When we build our ability to care for ourselves well during the practice of our business, it grows our resilience and it reduces our likelihood that we would be in a place of burnout. If you are ever in a place of burnout, ask for help from those around you. Give yourself more space to rest and recuperate, and really pay attention to how you're caring for yourself in all of the different ways that you do care for yourself. And speak kindly to yourself and support yourself as you would a friend through those feelings until you're to a place where you feel energized and motivated again in your business. Take a moment today to recognize one thing about yourself that you appreciate. You do so much to support yourself in your life and in your business. I'm sure the list could be much longer, and take at least a moment today to recognize one thing. Thank you for joining me, Coach Arliss, on Building Business with Soul. If you would like to learn more about how I support entrepreneurs, please check out my website, soullutions.com. That's SOULLUTIONS.com. Join me next week when we dive into more soulful approaches to business.